your name and what you're doing. Could you introduce yourself?
I'm Mats Bigert, one half of artist duo Bigert and Bergström.
And I am Lars Bergström. We met at the Royal Art School at 1985, and the first thing we did was summer of 1986, a performance we did at the Royal Art School, in fact. So we called it a gallery stroll. We went around to all the gallerists in Stockholm and were shaking hands, becoming friends with them in rubber costume, and we were painted yellow, the yellow of success. The empire's color, in fact, also, yeah.
When you make as an artist, so you are doing artworks together,
Yes.
co-work. So sometimes it has a merit and sometimes it has a demerit also.
Merit, demerit.
Demerit is
You mean
sometimes
like
bad
a-
and sometimes it's good.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, of course, collaboration is a challenge. I mean, it's good in one way because you can combine your sort of knowledge and your inspiration together. Then sometimes you want to do things all by yourself, and then you have a discussion, maybe a conflict. So it's interesting. You know, it's a huge voyage that we are going through. And but I think it's mainly creative and productive. And we not just only work together, we also work with a large group of people. So it's not just us.
But we are the one that came up with ideas,
Yeah.
mainly. Then, of course, you have discussions on the best way to make a solution. Maybe it's technical, but also technical solutions became artistic solutions. So it's a, you know, you get some knowledge of RGB lights, for example, and how you can program them, and what the possibilities are. And then you start to think, okay, then maybe we can connect them with the weather station and play around with the light. And then, you know, it's a creative process from between technicians and handcraft people and ourselves, of course.
And scientists and philosophers and journalists. I mean, a lot of times, a lot of ideas comes from reading, doing research, reading articles and such. But then, as Lars says, also, it's like when you start doing something, you come in contact with a specific material, and the material can actually give you an idea. So I think it's many different aspects when it comes into creating an artwork. No, it's not just one single thing.
Some specialties of you, because sometimes someone has more technological knowledge is better, and someone is a little bit, for example, the communication is better. So is there any specialty also?
Some days I'm better in communication. Some days Bigger is better in communication. Some days I'm hammering myself with my thumb, and some days I'm not. And that day, maybe Bigger hits the nail, you know. So it's about the shape of the day.
What about you?
No, it's a dynamic situation where sometimes Lars does it, sometimes I do it. So it's no specific. We don't really have it divided. The best thing, the dream would be that we only sit and come up with great ideas, and then other people that are better in production management or what else, communication, as you say. I mean, that's something for other people to take care of. I mean, we are the artists, we come up with ideas, we see things like this ice bear, which we found in a biological museum here in Stockholm, with these tires actually leaning against them, against the ice bear. So we see this piece and we think, this is an interesting installation. Maybe we should adopt this ice bear and make it into an artwork. It's probably the easiest artwork we did.
It's a ready-made, served to us. So this is coming from the Biological Museum in Stockholm. that was invented 1896, I think it was. That is famous for the dioramas with stuffed in animals and the landscape of the Nordic, nature.
Yes, a lot of our inspiration from our artwork comes from these old ways of representing nature, of constructing sort of a controllable environment. And I think this is one of the big discussions today, and it's been for a long time, is how much can we control and how much should we control. So I think when it comes to discussions about climate and nature and how technology interact with that, these are topics that we are super interested in.
What's the reason why you are interested in that matter?
I think it's a long voyage that we've gone through in several phases, that one thing leads to another. I don't think there was any conscious decision that we should work with these themes. It just sort of happened.
Yeah, one thing leads to another, of course. And we have been interested in climate for a long time, or nature and science and museums, as Mast said. And as an artist, it's not like you get a flash all of a sudden that gives you the whole direction of your life. And you're also changing because the world change and get focused on different things. But we always fall back to, I would say, science and nature and climate.
There was one event actually. Now, I haven't thought about that before, but we had done 3 performances and we were going to make a big scale installation at this dance theater in Stockholm, and we were still in art school. So we made a trip. We were going down to Germany to visit a friend of yours in Düsseldorf who were there at the art academy, and we stopped by in Copenhagen, and we went to the Natural Museum in Copenhagen where they had these dioramas, and next to the dioramas they had like old phones that you could listen to the natural sound of the animals. And somewhere there we came up with the idea that it would be interesting to maybe make a living diorama, like a tableau vivant. So that's somewhere, I don't remember, but we started to discuss the possibility of building our own museum, because we used the idea of the phones also in our version, which was called View, Life in a Mirage, which we did in 1989, I think.
Yeah, 89. But we have also been to different museums with dioramas, of course. And I think the idea was to have living dioramas, like a living museum with real people. You know, a museum is very static. I mean, this Nordiska Museet in Sweden that I went to when I was 9, and it's pretty much the same today. You have the same tables of this special, spectacular food and so on. And so one of our interests at that time was at least to have a living museum with living people that actually presented things. We have one museum in Sweden called Skansen. That's a little bit like that, without nature.